Good morning, Mr. Chair. We are now recording and live on YouTube, so you can begin the meeting whenever you like.
Okay, thank you, Martina. Welcome, everybody. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that we are meeting, and the meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the township's YouTube channel. We will hold the meeting as though we were in the council chambers and will follow all the regular policies and procedures. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak on a matter, and I will call on you. When I call for the vote, I will call for all those in favor, followed by all those opposed. And you will physically raise your hand and vote on the matter in which you wish to vote. I'd now like to call on the roll. Please raise your hand and state your presence when I call your name. Sorry, Jim Patterson.
I'm here.
Good morning, Jim. Mark Porter.
Morning, here.
Good morning, Mark. Robert Lamar.
Here.
Good morning, Rob. And Rod Manley.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rod. We also have present our Secretary Treasurer and Acting Clerk, Martina Chat-Hartwick.
Good morning.
Good morning, Martina. And we have our planner, Christina Coulter. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning.
With all the committee in attendance, I will call the meeting to order. With that, I will ask the committee members if they have any pecuniary interests. Seeing no hands. Moving on to 3.1 for the Committee of Adjustment minutes for March 24th. We need a mover and a seconder to receive and approve the minutes. So moved by Jim and Rod Manley, I see. All in favor? Carried. Anyways, we have no minor variance applications, and the meeting is we're going to move into a roundtable discussion, and I'm going to call on Martina to lead us in review of some training materials. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Martina to review that.
Awesome. Thank you, Harold. So the way Christine and I have envisioned this working is we've been able to reset our quizzes. So we're going to go through each one and then kind of talk about each question and the answers. So if anyone had any questions about them, or there was parts of it you didn't understand, or you wanted to talk about in relation to our committee, we've got that opportunity with the quizzes to kind of guide the discussion. So we don't have to free form it all together. So I'm just going to get my page up and then I'll screen share with you. All right. Hopefully you can see this. Just let me know.
I can see it, Martina, and it looks good.
Perfect. There's the quiz. All right. Can't see you guys. I'm just going to change how my screen looks. Awesome. Okay. So here we are on volume 1. So this was more of an introduction to the planning regime in the province of Ontario. And so there was a video, the handout to review, and then there was this quiz. So Christina, maybe I'll ask you to kind of go over the questions and I'll make sure we're looking at the right stuff.
Sure, no problem. So this is the PDF. So this isn't the live version of the quiz that we're working on. So hopefully we all know the answers, but if if you want to shout out or raise your hand, I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to try to just go over and, as Martina said, to ask any questions. So I'm not going to answer them all because I got 100% on my quizzes. So, so for
Good
the
to
first
know.
yeah, the first question is, what document is considered to be the major planning document in Ontario? And we have a number of different documents that are listed. The first one is the Provincial Policy Statement, the second, the Planning Act, and the third, the Statutory Powers Procedure Act, or none of the above. So this is the major planning document in Ontario. Anybody want to shout out an answer?
Planning Act.
Planning Act. Yay, perfect. That's right. The other ones are very important acts, but in terms of the planning document and what guides our principles, that is the Planning Act. The second question, committee members are not obligated to abide by any guidelines or framework when rendering decisions on applications. Is that true or false? Yes. You are obligated to abide by a number of guidelines, and there is a framework in process. The third question, a municipal official plan sets out regulations for land use such as setbacks, height, etc. They might be trying to fool you on this one. So the answer is false, correct. Yes, it's the zoning bylaw that sets out the setbacks, height, and those types of parameters. And I should say to Martina, I can only see, I can't see everyone. So if somebody raises their hand or shouts out, just let me know.
Okay, awesome.
Number 4, all decisions on planning applications in Ontario are required to be consistent with the provincial policy statement. True or false?
True.
True, that's right.
Yeah, that was Jim and Rob.
Excellent. The other document that we have to have consideration for is the growth plan, and they must conform to or not conflict with the growth plan. Number 5, a municipal council has the authority to grant minor variances to the municipal zoning bylaw. True or false?
Jeez.
True.
So we have conflicting answers there. Maybe we'll talk through that one.
This one's a tricky one, but I believe the answer is false. Yes. So a committee of adjustment is a quasi-judicial body. And so it's not all of municipal council. It can be, which I think is one of the questions that we get to, who the members of a committee of adjustment can be. But do I need to explain further, or Martina, did you?
So the committee is appointed by council, but the committee of adjustment under the Planning Act is the only body that can grant a minor variance. So, and sometimes that can be tricky in certain situations, because you may have a committee that grants or denies a minor variance, and then council may not agree with that decision, and you can actually have a council appeal the decision of the committee. Though with the new Planning Act changes and appeal regulations, that may not be an issue, but I haven't dug into that far enough to know for sure. Things are changing so quickly.
You're the boss.
Martina, I believe that has happened in the past.
Yeah, it
quite a
happened
few
here.
times. Yes. And sorry, can you tell the committee what the outcome was on that?
I honestly don't remember. I can picture the case, but I don't remember whether it went to mediation or whether the OMB at the time ruled in favor of
The committee, right?
I think they might have ruled in favor of the committee. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was really interesting. And this had to be, it was early in my career. So maybe 2013, 2014. So I apologize for not remembering all the details. So.
And I will maybe just jump in. So the rules have changed on this now, and I was just trying to pull up the exact wording, but it's only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and then there's two other terms, and that's the terms I wanted to get correct for everyone. It's a public body, which is defined in the Planning Act, and a specified person, which is also defined in the Planning Act. And generally specified persons does mean like utility corporations, like Hydro One, natural gas, those types of specified persons. So with the recent changes in legislation, that it's funny, this isn't really related to this topic, but they remove what used to be referred to as third-party appeals. So generally speaking, that would be the neighbors, anyone within 60 meters. So while the committee is still required to hear and we're still required to circulate applications, anyone that does not fall under a specified person, the applicant, a public body, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing is not able to appeal. And then I was just going to kind of further on this topic about a municipal council has the authority to grant minor variances to the municipal zoning bylaw. The municipal council has the authority to empower the committee of adjustment to grant the minor variances. And I think Martina was kind of alluding to the fact that your committee of adjustment could be all council members, but it is not council that is making the decision. Yeah.
Acting as a committee.
That's right. So
Thanks for that explanation, girls.
you're welcome. The authority to grant consent to sever land may be delegated to a municipal council. The municipal council, in turn, may not further delegate the authority to grant consent to a committee. True or false?
I would say false, but
False.
That's the answer that I had. Okay, excellent.
Maybe
Number 7.
Christina, just on that one with the consent. So in our case, we used to have a planning committee, which you were all a part of. But council decided to actually provide that authority to staff to process consents, to kind of speed up the process. And so what Christina does now is she reviews the applications just as she would have when presenting the information to the committee, and then produces a report and then provides a municipal appraisal form, which is the document that's sent off to the county, to the land division, and then that goes to council and they receive it at their regular council meeting. So there's still a public component because the MAF is still presented publicly and council still sees it, but it's not going to a committee anymore. So.
Yeah, I think that process really does streamline the applications from our end of things and gets it back to the county for a decision much quicker. Number 7, which of the following provincial statutes applies to committee hearings? The Statutory Powers Procedure Act, the Municipal Act, the Planning Act, the Highway Traffic Act. I think there might be more than one answer here, or there might be one that doesn't really fit. So it's definitely the Statutory Powers Procedure Act, but also the Municipal Act and the Planning Act are parts of the things to be considered or that apply to how committee hearings are undertaken and what is to be considered during a hearing. Number 8, yeah, anybody?
Let's go ahead.
In the interest of a fair hearing, members of the public should be allowed to voice their concerns at a committee hearing. True or false?
I got a
Yes.
thumbs up there.
True. For sure, they should be allowed to voice their concerns at a committee hearing, and the committee should consider their concerns when making a decision. Number 9, the Planning Act requires that a lower tier official plan be brought into conformity with the upper tier official plan. True or false?
True.
Yeah, that answer is true. So our upper tier official plan is the County of Peterborough official plan. And lucky for the Township of Douro-Dummer, our local or lower tier official plan is a component of the County of Peterborough. So we have our own separate policies and ways of implementing the requirements of the Planning Act and the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. But it's nice for us that we conform, because whenever the county updates their plan, we also have ours updated as well. Number 10, which of the following is a legally enforceable document which regulates land use in a municipality? The zoning bylaw, the official plan, procedural bylaw, or statutory powers procedure act, which regulates land use in a municipality. A legally, I think the key word here is legally enforceable document.
Zoning.
That's correct. The zoning bylaw is your legally enforceable document.
All right, move on to lesson 2.
Martina, is there a way, that we can do it live?
I don't remember how to do that.
Okay.
Do you remember?
If you go to see, I think, if you go to minor variances on the bottom left-hand side, after the little video icon, try that.
Oh, it's going to make us watch the content.
Oh, can we skip through the content?
I can try. Let's see.
How did everyone enjoy the videos? I thought they were really good.
Yep.
I found it interesting.
I think all of the actors got paid scale, right?
All right, let's see if it'll let me do it. Oh, it does. Perfect. Good thinking.
Okay, good. I think this will be easier because
A little more fun.
Yeah, a little more fun. That's right. And I'm just going to move my my image here. Okay, so Martina, do you want me to continue along asking the questions? And
Sure.
okay. So this quiz had to do with minor variances specifically. So the first question is, and you can choose one or more correct answers. Which of the following criteria are required to be considered when deciding whether to approve a minor variance application? A, is the variance minor? B, is the variance desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structures? C, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? E, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? And E, does the variance comply with additional criteria established by the province or the municipality, if any?
I thought the first 4 applied. I also think the 5th could probably apply under our new provincial government's regulations.
I would say, yep, so I would say definitely the first 4, because those are your 4 tests that a committee must consider when reviewing.
I would say E, if those criteria got put into the zoning bylaw and were part of the zoning bylaw, then we would consider them because it would be in compliance with the zoning bylaw, or and would have the purpose of the zoning bylaw. But if we had in our township, we don't have it, but if we had a guide that regulated style of structures or like the cladding of structures, if that was a standalone guide and was not part of the zoning bylaw, we couldn't legally enforce it. And so it couldn't be part of the variance process.
Let's try all 5. You can try all 5.
Oh, it said some of the answers were wrong.
Yeah, I think it's all 5.
So want all of them?
Way to go, Jim.
There you go.
Number 2, choose one or more correct answers. Read the statement and select true or false. When assessing whether a variance is minor, committees should consider the impact of the variance on the surrounding properties.
Yep.
True.
True.
Good job. True or false? A minor variance application may be approved by the committee, provided that the 3 out of the 4 tests in section 45, subsection 1 of the Planning Act are met. 3 out of the 4. True or false?
I see Rod shaking his head that it's false.
I believe that's my answer as well.
Yep.
All 4 tests have to be met in order for the committee to approve an application. Choose one or more correct answers. Section 45 of the Planning Act empowers a committee of adjustment to adjudicate which of the following types of application: application for minor variance, application to extend a legal non-conforming use, application to alter a legal non-conforming use, and application for interpretation of a use that is defined in general terms in a zoning bylaw. One or more.
I think all of the above.
This one was actually tricky. I actually had to pull the act out and look, because I couldn't remember off the top of my head, because we just typically do the minor variances.
I was going to say the same. I don't know that I've ever experienced an application to extend a legal non-conforming use or to alter a legal non-conforming use. But yeah, all 4.
I think in our township, that's usually done through a zoning bylaw amendment as opposed to the committee of adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Just on that, I have a question on that.
Sorry, I went too fast. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question on that. If something is legal non-conforming, does that designation not stay with the property forever? Or does that designation not stay with that property forever? Where that building?
Essentially, if you have a legal non-conforming use and it was legally permitted under a previous bylaw, so it did have a building permit and it was legally permitted, it can enjoy that legal non-conforming status as long as it continues to be used that way and it doesn't stop and ever change its use. So yeah, it does enjoy that status, even if the bylaw is updated. If we have a new bylaw and we have uses that were legally established, but then no longer comply with our new bylaw, it still can continue to be a legal non-conforming use.
It still applies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
True or false? Whenever possible, a site visit to the property that is subject to a minor variance application should be conducted by committee members.
True.
Need lots of nods.
True. Good job. True or false? Conditions imposed in a minor variance decision should be reasonably related to the variance.
True.
Yes.
Well, it'd be more fun if.
Yeah. True or false? A legal non-conforming use is a use, oh, I kind of already gave this away, that was legally permitted on the date that the current zoning bylaw was passed, or that was already legal non-conforming under the previous zoning bylaw.
Yeah,
true.
this is true.
Choose one or more correct answers. In considering an application to expand a legal non-conforming use, which of the following criteria must be considered? Has the legal non-conforming use been continuous? Is the expansion only on the original parcel of land that existed when the legal non-conforming use was established? C, is the expansion minor? D, is the expansion desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure?
All 4.
I've heard Rob say all 4. So,
I think this one was a little tricky for me.
yeah, because we just don't deal with it very much.
Yeah. You wouldn't consider 2 of the tests? You wouldn't consider whether it's consistent with the zoning? Oh,
Right, that
And he
makes
would-
sense.
And you wouldn't consider whether or not it's consistent with the OP.
I think it's the first two, to be honest, because this is why I say this is a bit of a tricky one, because minor variances have those 4 tests, which C and D are part of the 4 tests. But when we're looking at, I should go to the,
Legal
handout.
non-conforming.
yeah, when it deals with the expansion, the first 2 are the correct answers.
Yeah.
Just kind of, again, we don't deal with those very often, so it's a tricky question. Choose one or more correct answers. Which of the following criteria should be applied when considering an application to alter a legal non-conforming use? And item A, will the altered use be more in compliance with the zoning bylaw than the original use? Is the altered use similar to the existing legal non-conforming use? And C, will the altered use have negative impacts on the surrounding area, such as increased traffic or noise, different hours of operation, or greater parking requirements? This is an alteration.
So I would say all 3 there as well, but
Definitely. All
See what
3.
we get. Correct.
Very good. And the last question. Choose one correct answer. Which of the following should be considered by the committee when deciding whether to grant a minor variance? Conformity with provincial policy and provincial plans. B, the 4 tests set out in section 45, subsection 1 of the Planning Act. Input from agencies and municipal departments, valid planning related objections raised by neighboring owners. E, additional criteria established by the province or the municipality, if any, or F, all of the above. Very good. I don't have a very good poker face, I don't think. I'm kind of giving it away. Good job.
Look at us. All right. Did we want to, Christina and I were kind of debating this one. Did we want to go through the consent material now that the planning committee doesn't exist and this committee doesn't really work with consents? Or did anyone have questions about consents? I don't want to take people's time on something that we don't typically do, so.
we can skip it. I vote to skip it.
Okay, we'll jump over to site visits.
This was an enjoyable video, I thought.
Yeah, it was. All right, now that I know how to skip ahead, let's we'll
Awesome.
do that again.
Okay, great. So this has to do with the site visit that committee members are encouraged to do prior to hearing an application, either for a severance or a minor variance. So select true or false. The site visit to the property that is the subject of an application or consent for minor variance is critical as it provides context that may not otherwise be apparent. True or false?
Seeing lots of heads nodding.
Right.
True, true, true.
Read the statement and select true or false. Committee members are free to discuss the merits of the application with the applicant or any interested neighbors during the site visit.
False.
That's right. This was, you're there. You should let them know that you're there, but you shouldn't discuss the merits of the application. Just take notes. During a site visit for a minor variance application, which of the following things should you be looking for? Choose one correct answer. What is the visual impact on neighbors? Are there existing or potential drainage issues? Are there any impacts on the servicing to the property? Is the variance in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood? or E, all of the above.
All the above.
Yeah,
All of the above.
yeah, good job. Choose one correct answer during a site visit for a consent application to create a new residential lot in an existing neighborhood. Which of the following things should you be looking for? A, is the proposed new lot in character with the neighborhood? B, what impacts would be created by this new lot? C, what will the access be? D, what impacts will there be on traffic flow and parking? E, are there any obvious topographical, servicing, or drainage considerations? Or F, all of the above?
All the above.
Everything.
Yeah, there's a lot that to look at, not just for the severance application, but also for a minor variance.
Especially in our township where our topography is, can be really challenging. It's really nice to be on site and actually see how this potential structure is going to fit on the site. And yeah, we've definitely seen some lots that have some slope issues. And so you see those slope stability studies and other technical documents come forward to support applications in those cases.
I would agree. I think the air photos are a great resource, but sometimes what you see in the air photo is not what you see on the ground. So it's good to do all of them. True or false, a site visit is a requirement under the Planning Act.
False.
That's right. It's not a requirement, but it is encouraged. True or false, before entering onto a property for a site visit, you should ensure that the owner has provided his or her authorization to committee members and staff to conduct site inspections.
Seeing some nodding heads for true.
Yeah. Yep.
In our case,
yeah.
oh, sorry, you go ahead, Christina.
I was going to say the same thing, just so that the committee knows that that's composes part of the application that the applicant fills out, and we have a written authorization on that application.
So it's almost a default. You know, if they've asked for it, then they must have allowed us on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as folks submit their application, I know when I commission them, I go through every page with the applicant and I read the statement to them. I ask them if they have questions, if they understand it. And sometimes I'll put it in plain language so that they understand what the impact of that decision is, so that people would be visiting their property and did they understand that? And so, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Is it possible under our application process that they could revoke that right during the application process? Like, I haven't noticed anybody in the variances that has done that I can recall, but is that possible? And does that impact their application process in any way?
I can jump in, Martina, and you can correct me. I'm not a commissioner of oaths, so I can't commission an application, but in terms of deeming the application complete, I would say that's not a requirement for a complete application. So if someone chose not to sign that authorization, then we would make sure to notify the committee that you can't go on to their property, but you're still welcome to go and do a drive-by, to stop on the side of the road and to, do a visual that way. Martina?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement because it's not something that is required under the Planning Act. We can't penalize them or hold their application back or refuse it if they don't sign that section. But when I do commission the documents for folks and go over the application, I do stress the importance of allowing the committee to visit the site because it enhances their application and it makes it easier for the committee to make a decision on their application if the committee can visit the site. If you're not able to visit the site, if you only can see it from the road and perhaps there's big hedges, trees, other obstructions from the road, then you're not going to be able to understand the actual site conditions. So, but we can't deny them. So, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So not to just sort of was thinking, as we were talking about that, I could be wrong, and it's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, but during the last meeting, we approved a minor variance for an addition, some decking, and other components for property that I believe was on an island. Any thoughts, comments about the unique nature of some of our properties that are land or waterlocked, or, you know, they're islands? So in that particular case, obviously we didn't have any challenges as a committee. We looked at it, we agreed as a whole. It's within the footprint. There's no further encroachment on lot lines, etc. Had that not been the case, what options would we have had as a committee to go and do a site visit, assuming that they had granted us the ability to do so? And I'm thinking in actuality that I don't think that they had granted us that option, but regardless, had they granted it, what are our considerations for unique properties like that where they're water access only, for example?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I'm not having a huge amount of experience in this municipality that has water access. I might go to Martina, but I think the municipality has resources that if the committee did want to go out as a whole, as long as you didn't discuss the application, just going from what I recall in the video for this particular thing, that you could go out, but you couldn't discuss the merits. And I think the municipality could make to like find a way. We have some boats through the fire department, maybe even the building department, I'm not sure, to get and have an inspection if you felt that one was required. Martina?
Yeah, no, that's right on track. So what we do with island properties is we do ask the applicants to submit photos of the property, shot from different scenes. And so typically if it's an island application, you will see a lot more photos, not air photos, but actual like on the ground photos to help the committee understand what it looks like. But it is true, we do have boats. And if we had to, if there was a need, because we didn't have sufficient information to make a decision, or the committee felt that to be able to make a decision based on the 4 tests, they need to visit the site, we could arrange a site visit for everyone to go to that property and have an afternoon on the water. I think Jim's got a boat too. So
could I? Yes, and it's generally gassed up. But further, and this has occurred over my tenure on the committee, an application about an island property that we are viewing in the winter. So a boat ain't no good then. And in fact, there are 8 months of the year, perhaps, that you don't want to be on the pretend ice water mix out there. So what we have to deal with the application, but it is unsafe to visit the property or impossible to visit the property.
Yeah, in those cases, we would strongly request the applicant submit their photos of the property, and perhaps the committee would gain enough information from those on the ground photos to make a decision. But if that's not possible and the committee can't make a decision based on the submission, we could defer the application until it was safe and appropriate to make that site visit.
Right. So just be prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and through our pre-consultation process that the townships developed over the last while, we do meet with the applicants and review their concept and talk to them about what submissions they need to make to bring that application forward. And we do talk to them about photos and access and things like that during that pre-con, so that people aren't blindsided or not providing the information we need to be able to move them through the process effectively. So.
Oh, great questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, islands are really interesting. So.
Gee, I'm glad we didn't have to swim out anyways.
True or false? If your municipality uses posted notices, you should check to make sure that the notice is posted on the property during your site visit.
Yeah, I'm seeing heads nodding.
True.
Yeah, and we do use posted notices in most circumstances. Under the regulations, there are different options. You can post and notify everyone within 60 meters, or you can provide notice in the newspaper. We generally choose, because we're not, what's the word? Like we don't have a high density of population in most areas. It's generally more cost effective to post the notice and notify by mail.
Yeah, and because there's no weekly local newspaper kind of dedicated to the whole of Douro-Dummer, we don't use that option. Like there's the Lakefield Herald, but that's really more focused in the vicinity of Lakefield, and not everyone in the township gets it. So if we had a free local paper that everyone got in Douro-Dummer, we might go that route, but we don't have that option here. So.
Yeah, and the other thing we do, which is also not a requirement, but kind of goes above and beyond in terms of notifying the public, is to post on the township's website as well under the news and notices section. True or false, group site visits with all committee members attending at the same time are encouraged as a best practice?
Seeing lots of head shaking, no.
No. So there are, as we said, some circumstances where that may be required, but it's not encouraged as a best practice.
Rod, I saw your hand pop up there.
I thought it
Oh,
would
I'm
be
sorry.
more appropriate for this, especially if we're going to the island and one boat might do.
In that circumstance, it would be, but you wouldn't want to meet every single time for every application. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in cases where we would all have to go together, we'd set some ground rules before we embarked on our voyage. And it's kind of like when council goes on a road tour or something like that. We have an agenda, we post the agenda, we try to make it as transparent as possible. And then we try to follow the procedural bylaw during those times as well. And we've never had any issues. And so I think we would try to have the exact same situation occur with the committee so that we're being as true to the spirit of what we're supposed to do, and then follow the rules, of course. So I say, hey guys, stop talking. Let's talk about the weather.
True or false, if your municipality provides you with an identification badge or card, you should wear it or present it during your site visit if the owner or tenant is present.
Yeah, that's true. And we can make you identification if you like. Just send me a photo of yourself and we can get those created for you and sent back. So.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we have a machine that does it now. So
good.
Yeah, we didn't have that process before. So.
And the last question on the site visit, true or false, you should take notes during your site visit for reference during the hearing.
Absolutely.
Vast majority of these seem to be very common sense approaches, right?
Yeah. I think the quizzes were fairly structured so that it's not really possible to fail. I think they gave you, if you got the wrong answer, they gave you 3 tries to get the right answer. And plus you don't have to have these certificates either. It was just a good little training module. Meeting protocol, is that the next one?
It sure is, yeah. I think while it does seem common sense, I think because this is for the whole province, the perhaps level of experience of members can really vary. And you may have people on a committee where this is their first time interacting with the municipality and or being put in a position where they have this type of authority. So it's important to let them know, even though it may seem more common to us. So, and some of these things that seem really common are the things that can trip committees up and cause real liability. So it's important to go over them, even if they are basic. So.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so this is regarding meeting protocol, how the meeting takes place. This is really Martina's gig here. She's the one that's going to keep everybody in line along with the chair. So the first question, true or false, the Municipal Act requires that all committee meetings be public.
So a thumbs up.
Yeah.
The only time that our committee meeting would not be open to the public is if there was some matter that had to be dealt with in closed session. But there are very strict closed session rules with very narrow exceptions that we would have to follow. But in our committee's case, I think maybe we've gone to closed session once, but it's really not something that we typically have to do. So best to keep it that way as well. Try to be as open as we possibly can.
Here's one correct answer. A municipal procedural bylaw may govern which of the following with respect to committee meetings. A, the calling of meetings. B, the election and role of the chair. C, meeting procedures. D, conduct of members and the public. E, motions and voting. Or F, all of the above.
All the above.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. True or false, the Planning Act empowers a municipal council to appoint a committee of adjustment.
Yep.
True.
Yeah, we kind of learned that in the first one as well. It's kind of a duplicate question, but
It must be important. True or false? Committee members are required to be familiar with and abide by the code of conduct of their municipality during their activities as a committee member.
very true. And if you do have questions about the code of conduct, I know I sent it out at the beginning of your term. But if you ever have questions about it, I'm happy to answer those. And if it's something that might not be within my purview to answer, or something that I feel we need, a second opinion or someone else, we do have an integrity commissioner who can act on these issues and review them and provide us guidance as well. So there is that service available. And so we take it pretty seriously, and we want to make sure that everyone is following that code and doing the best we can.
True or false, the agenda for a committee meeting is not required to contain an item entitled disclosure of interest.
Thumbs down.
Yes, it is required to contain an item entitled disclosure of interest.
And with disclosure of interest and the Conflict of Interest Act, I cannot provide you advice on that, but I can answer procedural questions or provide you clarity on the act. But I'm not able to provide you advice, but the integrity commissioner could provide you advice. So.
Choose one or more correct answers. Which of the following options are available to a committee with respect to an application for consent or minor variance? A, the committee can approve the application. B, they can deny the application. C, they can refer the application to a council for a decision. Or D, they can defer the application to a future meeting. I found this one to be a tricky one.
Yeah. We don't go back to the
APD, I
council.
think. APD, or I think
That's what,
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
ABD.
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, because the council appoints the committee and the committee is responsible for making the decision. True or false, committees are not required to provide any written reasons for their decision on consent or minor variance applications.
False.
Okay. That's false.
We're not going to tell you.
So you will see the reasons outlined usually in the, well, they always are outlined in the decision that the committee members get for signature. True or false, committee members concurring in a decision on a minor variance application are required to sign it.
That is correct.
Yeah. You must sign it if you agree. True or false, committees operate on a quasi-judicial basis, hearing and considering all available evidence before rendering a decision. True. And the last question for meeting protocol, choose one correct answer. Which of the following may be appointed by council as members of a committee? Municipal councilors, members of the community, municipal staff, or D, all of the above?
Everybody.
Yeah, all of the above. Yep. Very good.
Oh, another perfect score for us. All right, conflict of interest, last round.
And again, I would say that this topic is a little bit more of Martina's purview as the secretary treasurer for your committee, but even I should be aware of the conflict of interest. So this is a good topic. True or false? The legislation dealing with conflict of interest in Ontario is the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, RSO 1990.
Yep.
True.
Yeah, very good.
And if anyone wants to learn more about the conflict of interest, I also have this handy dandy guide that lives on my desk. It's written by Rick O'Connor, who is the clerk, and I think he's the chief solicitor for the city of Ottawa, and he does a great job explaining these types of concepts. So if anyone ever wants to borrow this guidebook, just let me know. I've got lots of resources like that around if you like them. So.
True or false? A pecuniary interest means an interest relating to or consisting of money.
True.
Yeah. Choose one or more correct answers. A member should declare a conflict if any of the following types of pecuniary interest exist in relation to the application at hand. A direct pecuniary interest. B, an indirect pecuniary interest. C, a deemed pecuniary interest.
All three.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Rod, I see your hand pop up.
I think it's interesting, the last one, the word deemed. So it's cut and dry, the first two, I understand those, but we get into the gray area when you talk deemed. Can you give us your thoughts on what deemed is?
I'm gonna look it up in my handy dandy book.
Yeah. And,
See what.
and I
don't
would
have
say,
Yeah.
yeah, you look, Martina, just from the handout, because I don't really have an involvement in this, but it's where a member of the committee knows that their spouse or their child or maybe a parent has a direct or indirect pecuniary interest. So it's not particularly you, but it might be a member of your family, in which case it's deemed, it's associated to you. So there's the three types. Is that no?
But is that not indirect when it's a family member? Direct is yourself. Indirect is those that maybe arm's length from you or your family. But the word deemed?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with the deemed interest, I'm gonna just read this section because to paraphrase it, I think it would be a challenge. So in the case of relatives of the member, Section 3 attributes to the member the direct and indirect pecuniary interest of a parent, spouse, or child. However, such an interest is deemed to be that of the member only where the member knows of the peculiar interest including presumably its nature and relationship to the matter under consideration at the time when he or she is alleged to have contravened the act. In the case of Section 2, the Act creates specific indirect pecuniary interest in the member by reason of his or her shareholding, membership, partnership, or employment with or with another entity that has pecuniary interest in the matter. In contrast, under Section 3, it is pecuniary interest of the other family member, whether direct or indirect, whether remote or substantial, or whether an interest in common between family members and electors generally is that attributed to the member. So I think this would be if your spouse had an interest, either indirect or direct with the matter, you would have a deemed pecuniary interest with that matter, because your spouse's interest would be transferred to you.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
So
you.
that would be one way to describe it.
Yeah, and then I think the difference with the indirect is that the member has a relationship with a company or body that has a direct pecuniary interest. So you could be, the member could be the director or senior official of a public company or a private company, or they might be a shareholder, or they're a body or an employee of that. So that's the indirect. The deemed is where it's a family member that might have that relationship.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
go ahead, Mark.
So in the notes for the module, it specifically says deemed pecuniary interest would consist of spouse, child, or parent. So my way of thinking is that would be somebody within arm's length, right? That's how we would sort of generally term that. Does the Act, and this is purely out of curiosity, does the Act specify it to that extent? Meaning, what if it's a first cousin, or like, I'm just curious, like where the line is drawn with deemed interest with regards to family members, if it specifies that specifically.
Yeah, so first cousins are not part of this. We may be really close to our cousins and they may feel like siblings, but they're not counted. It's those direct family members.
And I think the key too is if there's any doubt, what it continually emphasizes is you should declare. It just is, it's more clear, and I think it's better for decision making. So if you think, you're really close, even though it doesn't specifically state a first cousin, but it could be perceived that there's a conflict. If in doubt, declare.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And also one other thing on that, if you're ever in curiosity or in doubt, we have that service available to us to call and ask the question. Ask the question whether you think whether you think you might have a deemed pecuniary interest, and they will, or our integrity commissioner will certainly answer that question beyond a shadow of a doubt for you.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah, he's very responsive. Tony Fleming is our integrity commissioner, and he's very, very quick to respond and provides a very straightforward, understandable advice. So you don't feel like you're even muddling through even more information. So.
Good. True or false, your secretary treasurer is responsible to determine whether you should declare a conflict of interest.
No.
That's right.
Can't do it.
It's you. Choose one correct answer. Which of the following statutory duties does a member declaring a conflict of interest have under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? A, disclose the interest and the general nature thereof prior to any consideration of the matter. B, provide a written declaration to the Secretary Treasurer at the meeting where the disclosure is made. C, not take part in discussion or voting regarding the matter. D, not attempt to influence the voting in any way. Or E, all of the above.
All above.
Yeah.
Good. And if you are declaring, you can declare in advance as well. So through our eScribe system, which you all have access to, if there's a file on the agenda that you feel you have a a conflict of interest with, you can actually click on that through your profile and complete the paperwork right there. And then it's sent to me automatically. And then it's registered in the agenda or on the minutes. And then it's automatically part of our conflict of interest registry. So if you need help going through that process, I'm always here to help you, facilitate that. But you can also provide me a written notice as well, and then I can upload it for you. So there's a few different ways to do it. But that's probably the easiest one. So.
Awesome.
Just one more thing on that, Martina, is also if you find yourself in the meeting and you think that you do have a conflict of interest, you can, or correct me if I'm wrong, but you can actually declare at that time and then do the paperwork after or declare that, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You can declare your conflict at any time once you become aware of it. So you may not be aware of it just reading the agenda material, but perhaps through discussions with the applicant and discussions with the committee, something, twings and you say, oh, I got a conflict. You can, raise your hand, let the chair know you have a conflict, and then remove yourself from the discussion. So, and then submit your paperwork after the meeting.
Thanks, Martina.
One correct answer. Penalties for contravention of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act include which of the following? A, reprimand. B, suspension of remuneration. I always get stuck on that word. For up to 90 days. C, removal from office. D, disqualification for up to 7 years. E, restitution of any financial gain, or F, all of the above.
F.
All about.
Yeah, pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
True or false? If it is determined that a member should have declared a conflict of interest but did not declare, then the hearing proceedings are automatically invalid and a new hearing is required. This is a tricky one, but yeah.
Should be, but no.
Because you want to give, I think the reasoning is a fair hearing. True or false? Sorry,
I went too fast there.
True or false, the duties and responsibilities of the Integrity Commissioner include advising upon requests from members of council and of local boards for advice respecting their obligations under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
Yep.
Yeah. True or false, requests by members for advice from the Integrity Commissioner are not required to be in writing. A telephone conversation is acceptable.
True.
This one, I believe, is false. You must put your request in writing.
So I know that if you call our Integrity Commissioner, they will have a conversation with you and they will ask you to follow up in writing.
True.
And then they will respond to your question in writing. So that there's a record of exactly what the outcome is and what the issue was.
Last one. True or false? If a member has any bias that impacts their ability to render a fair decision, it would be prudent for them to declare a conflict, even though there may be no pecuniary interest.
True.
Yeah, true.
And that has happened.
Yeah. Yep. Yep, that's again the statement, if in doubt, declare.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, go ahead, Rod.
Just a question. Way back, long time ago, we didn't have such a thing as a commissioner. We had to make decisions on ourselves. But saying that, if I did seek advice from the commissioner and they stated an opinion, say you didn't agree with that, it's still up to the individual, is it not?
Yeah, it's still up to you. If it's always up to the individual to make that decision. If
Okay.
someone else feels that we're hiding an interest or something else, they can ask the commissioner to investigate you as well. So, if you get advice, best to follow it. But if you're not sure about that advice, you can always get a second opinion as well. But they are there as the resource, and Mr. Fleming is highly qualified. So I would take his advice to heart if he provided it to you.
Just further to that, the number 10 with any bias, again, it's slippery slope with regards to how people perceive the situation.
Absolutely.
I have declared conflict of interest because of perception, which really galls me, because the fact is I had no gain, but it is how people have seen it. And again, it happened a number of years ago, actual fact, when I was a city employee, but yet a county councillor. When issues before us talked about joint services, I had to decline, even though I would not be seen as having direct money in my pocket because of it, but because of my employer and my relationship. So again, it was one of those things that sort of galls you because you felt you could contribute a good opinion and not be biased, but yet how the world seen it was different.
Yeah, I think that's really good, experience to share with everyone.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Rod. Anybody else have anything else you want to contribute here?
I was just going to say here, through you, Chair, that if anyone would like the copies of the printouts, I did download them all, so they are available. So if you just wanted the quick summary of each of the sessions, just let us know and we can give you a hard copy.
Okay, great. Sorry, somebody else? Did I see somebody else that wanted to weigh in on anything there? No? Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Sorry, I just saw Jim Patterson's hand pop up there.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
Just to say, I want to thank staff for coming up with this process. I think it was time well spent, and on a personal basis, I learned something. So that's at my age, it's always good to learn something new.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jim. And yes, I echo Jim's appreciation. Thanks, girls, for bringing this forward to us and just going through it. You always learn something. I got a couple wrong there, but it was my thinking process. Anyways, that's great. Thanks a lot, girls. Our next meeting date, if required, is going to be May the 26th. And Martina will be sure to let us all know. And if there's nothing further, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Rob, seconder. Mark, all in favor? Carried. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and have a great weekend. And again, thanks a lot, girls, for pulling this together first.
Hi, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.